Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Fall 2023 New Jersey Film Festival Q&A series. We'll be doing a number of these where we'll be interviewing the film directors, cast members, screenwriters, producers as part of these Q&As that are meant to supplement the viewing experience for our audience. The Fall 2023 New Jersey Film Festival will be the 42nd of these that we've done since 1982. And the festival will be running from September 8th through October 8th. Many of the films will be available in person, I'd say 90%. The other 10% are only going to be available online. And there's one performance, which is a musical performance with a video projection that's going to be in person only. You want to check out more information about our program? I'll be doing a share screen at the end of this Q&A. But if you want it quick and dirty, just go to njfilmfest.com and then go to current events and click on Fall 2023 New Jersey Film Festival. There's a red button. You just click that and it'll send you to our website. All right. Well, today we're talking to John Evans, who's the director of Breaking the Surface, as well as Ani. Oh, gosh, I forgot to ask you how to pronounce your name. You tell us.
Javian.
Javian, cool. All right, so I didn't want to butcher it. And they are the directors of the film, and we have three of the dancers, or two of the dancers, as well as two of the festival people. We have Anita LaBelle. She is a festival juror. We have a new intern, Reese. She's going to be asking questions of these guys. And we have these wonderful dancers, Marianna, and over here we have Elena, Noel, and we're going to be talking about Breaking the Surface, which is a really wonderful dance experimental film that was shot in New Jersey. John is a colleague of ours at Rutgers University, so we're very proud to be premiering. Is it a world premiere, you guys? Ani, John, is this going to be the first time you'll show this?
It's had an online viewing at a small festival. But yeah, this is the New Jersey premiere for sure.
Very cool. And it'll be the first time it'll be seen in person. So
yes,
that'll be awesome because your film will look absolutely fantastic on our big screen. And I wanted to just give our audience a description. The film is part of our festival opener. It'll be playing with two short films called To Understand an Anemone by Emily Goodchild. She's from the UK. And then we'll have another film by another Jersey filmmaker and a Belgian filmmaker called Fandango, Portrait of an Opera Workshop, which is about teaching opera in the Congo in Africa. So it's a really great program about the arts. And your film is a dance piece that deals with climate change. And I guess, John, I ask you to tell our audience a little bit about your film and how it came to be.
Well, I'm a choreographer and mainly through the years have made work for the stage, but have made a number of dance films. Most of my work is not narrative in nature, as most modern dance is not narrative. And it usually comes down to finding an energy and an emotion and a connection to the physicality of the movement. And in dance film, a lot of that comes from location as well. And you can do a lot of things in film you can't do on stage, obviously close-ups and sort of be right in the action. And this film came about through a collaborative grant process at Rutgers, matching artists with scientists. So I had an idea to work on a film that would be shot on the coast and work in some water, and found some scientists in SEBS and in marine research, and just started sort of bandying things about. And then Ani came on board. And we sort of started forming some ideas about how we could bring attention to what's happening along the Jersey Shore through climate change. Now, it's not, never really hits you over the head with a baseball bat, but there are a couple of moments in the film where you get a pretty clear connection to what's going on. yeah, and so that's sort of how it came about. And then just finding all the wonderful dancers, all but one were alumni. One is still a current student, but everybody else had graduated or were faculty at Rutgers. Um,
Very cool. I mean, that was one of my questions, so I'll see to Anita and let her ask the next one since that was going to be my next question. Thanks, John. Anita?
Yeah, so obviously, your film deals with the focus of rising sea levels and the danger that climate change poses, and there's this whole motif of water and ocean imagery that is really beautiful, but I was wondering why it was important for you to address specifically this issue out of all of the numerous issues in your film.
is that to me again?
It can be anyone.
Okay.
Ani,
John, I
go
think
ahead,
you-
Ani.
Well,
Go
I was
ahead,
gonna,
Annie.
I was gonna, I'll share my part of it. And John, I also think you should respond to this since you were the first one to conceptualize the film as well. But I think these issues around climate change are the issues of our lives. This is among one of the most pressing pressures that we are experiencing right now. So, and I really firmly believe that dance is a vehicle to address these issues and to provide avenues for folks to learn about these issues. John conceptualized this whole educational component of the film as well. That I would love to hear more from him about that, so that this film doesn't just exist in this vacuum, but that we were conceptualizing bringing it into school systems, and so folks could learn more about it as well.
Yeah, I guess I would just add that, art is a way in to issues that are important and life-changing, or simple and not. There's all kinds of ways you can reflect on what's going on in society today through art, and it brings more attention to it. And if somebody sees it and goes, wow, maybe I shouldn't be, or makes some changes or gets involved, or I think that's one of the reasons behind some of the collaborations that have been happening at Rutgers through arts and sciences, is to bring awareness to some of these issues and to just give some focus and attention to it.
Very cool. Evie, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, so I was wondering, obviously with dance, music plays a very big part in it. And I was wondering if when you were thinking about the different locations you would be filming, if you had specific music in mind, because I noticed that when there was water present, there was heavy violin music. And when there was more of just like the earth and the ground and the grass, there was a lot of percussion involved. So I was wondering if that was intentional.
That's a great question. Michael Wall, who composed the music, is an old friend, and he was an accompanist at Rutgers when he was still a student at Mason Gross. He played his first modern dance class for me, and he will admit that he was terrible. And he really dove into it, and it became his life. And that's what he does. He makes music for dance. So he makes music for live dance. He makes music for dance on film. He performs music for dance. And we've worked on a number of projects over the years, not for a while, but over the years. So I have a lot of trust in him. And so we talked about tone and energy, and then really he went for it, and then came back with stuff, and pretty much everything he did worked really well for me. We only did very minor shifts, and when he first saw it, he was just like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. I can't wait to start. So he was inspired by the movement, and the film was pretty much done, except for some tweaking, when he got it. So it was organic. He said it was a really organic process for him, and he just he did a lot of it in like 3 days, and just really pushing through. So, but yeah, I agree. It supports it really well.
Cool.
Can I
Any-
add into that
Of
too?
course, please.
Just to say, this is really it's the brilliance of Michael Wall. He's an ingenious composer. His website is soundformovement.com. A little plug there. But this is also the editing genius of John, who put the film together before it was sent to Michael. And the way that John edits, there's already, although there's no music in it, right? There's music in the editing, and there's rhythm, and there's sensation and tone, and so that allows Michael a way in through sound. Then, so it's really about the way that those two things come together as well.
Very cool. Elena, what was your favorite part about working on this film? What was the thing you liked most about working on this film?
I would say just that the environment we were in, all of the sand, the like mud, the water, really like influenced what we were doing in our bodies, and like how the choreography changed depending on what kind of terrain we were on. That was something that was like exciting about doing the film. Yeah.
How much input did you have in creating your movements? I mean,
I'd say we had a good amount of input. Some of it was moments were improvised, and most of the solo work that we did was self-generated and, you know, guided by John and Ani. But yeah, it was we were sort of asked to connect to like different qualities of and textures of movement, and then we came up with the solo work.
very cool. Same question to you, Marianna.
I actually agree. I have a lot of the same thoughts and feelings about it. We were given certain material that we rehearsed a bit prior to the video, so we had some kind of like knowledge of movement in our bodies already. But a lot of it was kind of feeling out the space, seeing like how our feet were interacting with the ground that we were on, because, you know, grass and sand and mud and sticky, those are all very different textures to work with. So we kind of, as we were going, we're kind of modifying the movement and figuring it out as we went, which created a really, I think, beautiful like harmony between movement and setting. So I really, really loved that aspect. Also, the whole group that we worked with was just such a nice environment to be with. Everyone was so excited about the project and very welcoming, and obviously climate change is a big issue for everyone, so we all had that kind of like common hold of like, this is not only dance that we love, but also a cause that's really, really important. So
Absolutely. So did the dancers all know each other, or were some of them knew some of them, and Ani and John?
Mostly. There were some that had graduated a while ago. Aaron, I think, graduated in 2008. So he was way before Elena and Marianna. Some of the other ones that had graduated much earlier were faculty now. Heather, so they knew Heather, even though she graduated much earlier, or Paul, who's PTL adjunct lecturer for us. But other than that, I think they all knew each other. Yeah.
Cool, because you could definitely tell the chemistry was there. You know, some of the underwater stuff was, or in the water stuff, you could tell there was enjoyment in performing together. But time for another question for Anita. So
I'd love to hear more about the choreography process for your film, especially like if there was a move in particular that you really wanted to incorporate or felt that was necessary to include. And even I'd love to hear the dancers, if there was a sequence of moves that you felt really resonated or were really important to show.
Yeah, John and I went into the studio before we started rehearsals with the dancers, and we each made a choreographed phrase of movement that we then taught to the dancers. So that was movement that was repeatable. We could ask the dancers to do that in multiple locations, and it would be the same movements each time. And then we also came up with a few improvisational scores that we brought out to the location. John and I had done a site visit prior to the filming, so we had already sort of interacted with the land and the environment a bit, so we understood that as we were developing these ideas. And then we also asked the dancers, each dancer, to come up with, I think, Marianna, Elena, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 2 phrases. One was a rather sort of more intimate, personal, gestural phrase. And then there was one that was a bit more large and sort of like a breaking through, breaking out, digging, a stormy, weathered kind of phrase as well that we then could place into different locations.
Very cool. Evie, do you want to jump in?
So when watching the film, I thought that the costumes very beautifully fit in both simplistically with the aesthetic and the storyline that you were trying to tell. And then about a quarter of the way to halfway through the film, we were hit with like this stark contrast from earth tones to pure white. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that shift and what its purpose was.
A striking difference, which I'm glad resonated, because that was a big part of the reason for the change, is just to put you in a different world. And I had ideas, there were ideas about what those 2 people are in the water, in the tank. Are they real? Are they ghosts? Are they memories? Are they? So I wanted the sort of clarity of the costumes to not really affect it. So and you notice I painted the back of the tank white as well, so they sort of blended right into that, and that just to really put it in a different place. So that was, I guess that was the main reason, is to give that sharp contrast.
I wondered, I always tell my students everything in the frame is there for a reason. And then when you get to the tank scene, it's got the, danger. And I like the fact that you kept that, because your film has a number of really wonderful special effects, right? There's the split screen and the tracking shots that go up and down the walkways over the marshes. That's really terrific. And are dance moves in their own right. I mean, I think the camera becomes a dancer, and you see that in a number of ways. And then there's projections where the dancers are dancing in front of projections. And I wondered, is that the danger is something you wanted to keep in to that shot, and to emphasize the danger of climate change?
Can I talk about
Yes,
that? That's
please.
actually, Al, it's funny that you bring that moment up, actually, because John and I went back and forth a couple times on that. Like, I was sort of like, I don't know if we need to be that explicit in that moment. And John didn't sort of bother John as much. And so we went back and forth, and then we sort of came to a compromise on how it ended up ultimately in the film. But I think there's also this conversation between natural and man-made in the film as well, right? The natural environment, and then the man-made tank, and the painted, the projection, the technology of it. And sort of, there are moments when it's just one or just the other. And then there are these other moments where it's both, and the abstraction of that sort of lends itself to meaning in a way as well.
Right. Really great stuff. I also thought the camera movements that are kind of herky-jerky or staccato were really quite impressive too. It's the kind of stuff that you see in horror movies, and so climate change is a horror movie for sure, except it's real, it's not a movie. And I like that, again, the camera kind of almost being a demon in certain moments. And so kudos for that. We have time for a few more questions. Anita, go ahead.
Yeah, this one is specifically for Ani, but I know that your research as a movement educator centers around humans as storytellers, and I know that the goal of this film was to have the story of the impact of rising sea level on not only the dancers in the film, but on everyone in New Jersey and around the world. I'd love for you to talk more about how you came to the idea of humans as storytellers, and how dance is such a pivotal way to show that.
Thanks, Anita. So as John actually said earlier, earlier in this interview, similar to that, I'm not thinking about story necessarily as narrative, but I'm thinking about I think about each person's ability to express like a storyness or something that is story-like in a way. I feel like story is the way that we understand the world, the way that we sort of make sense of things, and I really sort of believe that that doesn't always happen in a linear sort of fashion either, that the way we start to make meaning and understand things in dance particularly happens because of overlapping images or juxtaposing things, or the tone of something, or the costuming, or the movement of the camera, etc. Also, part of that storytelling is about the people that are in the work. So I think something that I find really beautiful in this film is that I think you see each of the dancers individually, but you also see each of the dancers together as a cohort and as a community. And we're able to see each of them sort of confronting this landscape, or confronting the movement, confronting the camera in a way individually. And then we are able to see them sort of doing that together as a group. And to me, there's a sense of story, there's a sense of meaning that evolves over the course of the film because of that, because of their relationships to one another, and because of the ways that we get to sort of peer into each of their experiences individually as well.
Yes, the image behind me is from the film with all the dancers. So I just one sneak in one question. The locations are all in New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. And the selection of those locations went about, would you like to tell us? Or?
Well, one of the researchers that was involved runs the Rutgers Marine Research Facility in Tuckerton, in Egg Harbor Township. And that's housed in the old Coast Guard station that was built in the early 30s to help try to defeat the Canadian bootleg whiskey runs that were coming down. They built a whole bunch of Coast Guard stations along the coast to try to help with that problem that was happening in Jersey and New York. And so the station is beautiful. It's this beautiful building and environment, and there's a number of environments there. The causeway, which is just this beautifully long boardwalk from the station out to the road, and then the situations on the beach, in the marsh, by the river, in the sand dunes. There's just so many places. So when Mats and I were speaking, he said, well, you should come out and look at it. And that's when Ani and I went out and took a look, and we were just like, oh, this is perfect. It's got so many different places that we can incorporate and we can play. And we just spent a couple hours walking around making notes, and it influenced the way that we approach the movement as well, I think. So
yeah, and to add into that, I think something that ultimately became important about that location is that it's a site for research. And this film is not just about doom and gloom, but it is there's, I think that last image, Al, that image that's behind you, we're hoping to portray a sense of hope at the end of this film, that there is work being done towards this, and there's research, important research going on. And the site of the film is actually where a lot of that research in New Jersey is happening.
Very cool. Evie, you get the last question.
I was wondering if in the future you had any more climate change related or otherwise just world problems in general that you planned on tackling with the powerful movement that is dance.
Wow, let's line them up. I don't think I'm finished with the water yet, so I think there's another film with water coming. It's still just percolating a little bit, but I have this feeling it might be shot in pools because I need a little more volume. So that's, and I have no idea sort of how it connects to the bigger issues yet. It's just sort of my way in to start. So how about you, Lonnie?
Some of the work that I'm doing right now outside of this film is about inherited trauma and the way that our bodies hold trauma and movement's relationship to that, movement's ability to dislodge it and metabolize it. I'm doing that in particular in relationship to my Armenian heritage, and I'm doing that with dancers in Yerevan, Armenia, actually.
Wow.
So that's been on my agenda for a couple of years now, and I see that being a part of the agenda for the next few years as well. Yeah.
And
Elena, Marianna. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
are both choreographers in their own right as well.
That, I guess what I wanted to say is that the film, the power of the film is not only in the dancers, who are all wonderful, but the selection of the locations, the editing, no question, is what keeps it going. You know, there are fits and starts. I think the freeze frames and the herky-jerky movements I mentioned before lend to create this rhythm that pushes us forward to tackle this issue. It may not be, it's not literal, but it's there. And I think kudos to you guys for pulling that off. But I wanted to tell our audience how they could buy some tickets. And I'm going to share a screen, but let me do this first. All right. And so normally our website would be the main place that you would go to, which I'm going to move this up a little bit, and then you would go to njfilmfest.com, and this is our homepage, and the background is the location of the screening space, which is Voorhees Hall. We're in a large lecture hall, which is room 105. There's only 2 classrooms in the building, and you walk in and pretty much there's a lobby, and then there are space seats about 250 people. It's a really nice space that I actually was involved in upgrading because it used to be this echo box, and I made sure that they put soundproofing in. But you know, it's a really great space to see films big, and the sound system is very nice. And so this is normally where you would go and you would click on current events and everything would open up for you. But because of the pandemic, we partnered with Eventive, which is a streaming service that Sundance uses, you know, major distributors use as well. And we've had no issues with them from a technical standpoint for the 3 years that we've been using them. And we are a hybrid festival. So, you know, this way, when you purchase a ticket, the ticket is good for the in-person show as well as for the online show. So you would come here and you would see Fall 2023, and then you've got to click that red button, which bounces you to our Eventive catalog page, and everything is there where there's general information, and the screening that we've been talking about is here. It's our first screening, and you can buy tickets by hitting the pre-order now. It's really very simple. We ask our patrons to explore our site and go back to festival site, opens up to our welcome page, which is pretty generic, but it has driving directions, location, sponsors, some technical stuff that's there, but you still want to hit these red buttons. The red buttons give you access to everything you need. You want to buy an all access pass, it's $100. If you want to see everything, it's a great deal. It's basically half off. If you want to buy individual ticket screenings, that's the catalog page we were just on. If you want to read about each individual film, you can go to each little thumbnail here, tells you about the movies we're showing. Here's the Breaking the Surface page, which lists all the cast and the crew, and another shot from the movie. So you can see the walkway we were talking about at Tuckerton. And then when you're done with that, you can always go back via menu to the welcome page and click on schedule. And the schedule opens up in linear form with big pictures for all the movies that we're showing. And this is our opening show, so you can get information that way too. So I'm going to stop sharing and say thank you so much to all of you. Will everybody be at the screening? Are you guys all going to be able to be there? I hope so.
I hope so. I'm going to try to get them all there.
Yeah, I mean, you're our guests. If you come, just let me know. We'll put you on the guest list, and that's September 8th. The program itself starts at 7. There'll be that short film and then your film and then Fandango. It's done by length of the movie. And then there'll be a Q&A session afterward then too. And you'll be with a live audience and not just us three asking you questions, although we'll be there too. And so I want to thank you all for participating. And thank you so much for the wonderful film work that you guys have, the wonderful film that you put together. We look forward to screening it on our big screen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.